I think it's time we found a way back home. You lose so many things you love as you grow. I miss the days when I was just a kid. My fear became my shadow, I swear it did. Wherever is your heart, I call home. Wherever is your heart, I call home. Though your feet may take you far from me, I know. Wherever is your heart, I call home. Made me feel like I was always falling down without a place to go. Somewhere in the distance, I heard you calling. Oh, it hurt so bad. Wherever is your heart, I go.
Good morning. Welcome to Watershed. Happy Easter. We are so glad that you are here with us this morning. And whether you're here in person or joining us online, we want to welcome you into this space. And we do have some some pastries and coffee this morning. So if at any point you're feeling hungry or feeling like you need that second cup of coffee, go ahead and grab it. But if you're in the room, I want to welcome you and invite you to stand up as we begin this morning by singing together. Ring the bells, this time I mean it. Bid the hatred fare thee well. Give back the pieces of my Jesus. Take your counterfeit to hell. Bang the drums, this means war, not the kind you're waiting for. We say mercy won't be rationed here. That's what we're fighting for.
If all is fair in love and war, then what the hell is loving even for? If we can't sing it loud enough, we'll keep on adding voices up.
Ring the bells, ring the bells, ring the bells, ring the bells. Move your feet, you tiny people. You've been hiding for so long behind your statues and your steep. Does that hit too close to home? I got faith to move a mountain and to watch the mountains move. It's time for words to fall like thunder, sound of justice breaking through.
If all is fair in love and war, then what the hell is loving even for? The world will sing the martyr sings, but love prays to the Calvary.
Ring the bells, 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 ring the bells. You called me boy instead of son, and I ain't the only one. Was in the throne room of a kingdom where I found that I belong. I ain't scared to face the fortress, I ain't seen them fall before. With broken bones you built it, but it crumbles board by board.
If all is fair in love and war, then what the hell is loving even for? If we can't sing it loud enough, we'll keep on adding voices up.
Ring the bells, 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 ring the bells. This time I mean it. Bid the hatred fare thee well. Give back the pieces of my Jesus and take your counterfeit to hell. God, I'm in this place again. God, I'm begging, please again. I need you. Oh, I need you. Walking down these desert roads, water for my thirsty soul. I need you. Oh, I need you. Your love and kindness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips, like the sound of a symphony in my ears, like holy water on my skin. Oh, yeah.
Dead men walking, slave to fear. I wanna know your heart, so draw me near. I need you. Oh God, I need you. So take me to the riverside and take me under baptize. I need you. Oh God, I need you. Your love and kindness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony in my ears. It's like holy water on my skin.
I just want to know your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really helps me be the change. And I just want to know your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really helps me be the change.
I just want to know your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really helps me be the change. And I just want to know your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really helps me be the change. Your love and kindness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water, your forgiveness. It's like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. It's like holy water on my skin. It's like holy water.
Well, good morning. Happy Easter. Perfect. You all understood the assignment. Well, welcome. My name is David Roberts. I am one of the pastors here on staff at Watershed, and I am here just to take up a little bit of your time, probably more than planned, to let you know what's going on, welcome you here. A couple little housekeeping things. Obviously, it's one of the days that some of you show up to church, and so things are a little tighter than normal. We want to honor everyone's space, make sure everyone feels safe and appropriately distanced. But if possible, if you do have any margin to scoot in so that people who are still kind of filtering in can find seats on the sides. Also, for anyone feeling truly adventurous, most of the front two rows are open. My suspicion is that Sean, who's going to be sharing the message today, isn't planning on being interactive as far as the crowd goes. So if that's a mortal fear of yours, as it is mine, there's no risk, and we're not really like a splash zone church either. So you should be fine on that front as well. I have gotten to 0 of my actual announcements so far, so I am doing great time-wise. Strong suspicion, could be wrong. Some of you might be here for the first time, and or maybe we haven't seen you in 2 years. In which case, first and foremost, welcome and or welcome back. But we do want to know that you were here. And so, they stuck up preface first. Okay, if that's you, then we want to tell you about preface. What is preface? Preface is an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about us. And intimidatingly, an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about you. Here's what I mean by that. Preface is a place where you get to hear the kind of the spiritual story, the spiritual journey of Watershed. But crucially, an opportunity for you and others there with you to explore and share your own kind of spiritual heritage, spiritual history, and hopefully find ways where those stories intersect. So at a very basic, very practical level, if you have questions like, what is this place? What did I just walk into? This is a great place to get those questions answered. It's co-led by our founding pastors, Scott Hofer and Matt O'Neill, other pastors and staff like myself, like our children's pastor Blair, and others often make exciting cameo appearances. And really, it's a great place to kind of get your feet wet and explore whether or not this might be a place that you might want to call home. So you can register a lot of different ways, but the simplest way is to just take a picture of that QR code, magical technology we have these days, and that'll take you straight to the sign-up form. It's totally free. Childcare is provided if that's something that you might need, also free. And but there's other ways to sign up as well. We talk about it on our social media accounts. You can go onto our website, and we have a nifty free app, a Watershed app that you can download, which is going to have all the information that I'm talking about this morning as well. Additionally, don't go to the Robin slide yet, we have something called a connection card. And it's kind of confusing because it's not actually a physical card, because it's 2022. But you can, again, take a picture of the QR code. If you're brand new with us this morning, perhaps you probably don't have the app yet, if that's the case. But it's also on the app. And this is just an opportunity for us to know you were here. Not that we're tracking you for any reason, but we want to know that you were here so that we can follow up if you have any needs, if there's anything that you want us to know about you. There'll be opportunity to share that. And it just helps us to know and appreciate who is here with us this morning, especially on a Sunday like Easter when there's more of you. So if you are new with us, we would love it if you would fill that out. And just afterwards, for not just the new people, but for everyone, just know that we have set up coffee and some pastries and stuff in the back. So I know many of you probably have family plans, lunch plans, and things like that. But if you're not in a hurry afterwards, we would love for you to linger and just kind of maybe meet some people, talk to some people, fellowship with some people on this Easter Sunday morning. Last thing, I promise. Next week, we have an event that we're really, really excited about. Dr. Robin Henderson Espinoza is going to be with us. They are a trans, queer, non-binary activist, theologian, and author who just came out with an amazing new book called Body Becoming. And so this is going to sort of kind of be a book launch celebration event for our friend Robin. It's going to be sort of a mixed event. There's going to be things happening at Petty Thieves Brewing, kind of near Uptown. There's going to be things happening here. So Saturday, the 23rd, Petty Thieves in the afternoon, then back here in the evening. Robin starts at 6, but we'll be kind of opening things up around 5. We'll have food and drinks and things like that for you to kind of hang out, meet some people before we get to the book event. Then Sunday morning, Robin will be with us to share the sermon. And then in the afternoon, again, back at Petty Thieves, there's going to be more conversation, more dialogue with Robin. Robin is brilliant. They are incredible. One of my favorite people on the planet. And so nothing about this event costs you any money. So one or all of these 4 ways to plug in, we would invite you, encourage you, welcome you to do that next week. And then finally, I know I said that was finally, but this is finally. Nothing that we do, what we're doing here on Sunday morning, bringing in people like Robin, none of this would be possible without the generosity and the ownership of so many of you. And so try to make it super easy to support, to give here at Watershed. Magic QR code, once again, the app, the website, secure giving boxes in the back for those of you who are old school. But just your continued faithfulness in supporting the work that we do here is exactly what allows us to dream a little, to bring in people like Robin, to support our justice partners throughout the city, throughout the country, and throughout the world. And so we are ever, ever grateful for the ways that all of you support us, both with one-time gifts and with reoccurring giving on a weekly or monthly basis. So thank you so much. Once again, we are so glad that you are joining us this morning.
Where hope is lost, you find us. In the grip of grief, remind us there is grace at the graveside of our dreams. And though it seems that life has left us, these winter trees are bare, not barren. Their brittle limbs, though fruitless now, are waiting only for the rising sap of spring. So I will sing, though my voice is strained. And though in pain my heart will cling to the hope you hold, and I will bring as gifts of gold my thirst and hunger. I will stand under this love I cannot understand. For you are water to the thirsty, to the hungry, you are bread. You are healing for the broken, Easter morning, even for dead. Where hope is lost, you find us. In the grip of grief, remind us there is grace at the graveside of our dreams.
All of the hours wasted, all of the moments missed, another promise broken, another failed attempt, all of the years pretending, all of the unbelief, another night of worry, another dawn of grief. You never gave up, you never gave up on me. You'll never give up, you never give up on me. All of the indecision, all of the restless days, another disappointment, another hidden shame. You never gave up, you never gave up on me. You never give up, you never give up on me.
All of them broken, mended, all of the wounded healed, all of the burden lifted, all of the promises, all of the wrong forgiven, all of the soul restored, all of the shame rewritten, all of the child reborn. You never gave up, you never gave up on me. You'll never give up, you'll never give up on me.
Good morning, Watershed, and happy Easter. My name is Sean, and it's such a joy to be with you today. If you're new here or online, let me welcome you to this space. Watershed is a vagabond community of truth seekers. We come from churched and unchurched paths, and all are welcome here. We're in a series that is exploring our connection to the land and our responsibility to it. Wild Recollection is a series to remind us of our roots, of where we come from. Biblically speaking, the wilderness is a landscape that is profoundly sacred and cataclysmic. In the Bible, we know wilderness, or words that translate to wilderness, appear roughly 300 times. Moses and the people of Israel searched for promised land and were sustained by water and manna in the desert wilderness. People encountered God in the sacred wilderness. Elijah, Hagar, Moses and his burning bush, Mount Sinai as the dwelling place of God. All of this makes sense, but when we consider Genesis and the ordination of the world, it's clear God dwells in nature. It's clear that natural landscapes are considered holy places. The wilderness is a site of change, a site of encountering the divine. The New Testament, too, points to the important role of nature. For the wilderness is there in most of the critical moments in the short life of Jesus. He was baptized with river water. He seeks solace and refuge away from the crowds by taking a boat offshore. Mark tells us Jesus went out to a lonely place, and there he prayed. And later, in the twilight days of his life, Jesus is in a garden where an intense spiritual battle takes place. These passages illustrate that Jesus sought refuge in nature. These sacred outdoor places were sites of self-discovery and solitude, sites where the divine was intensely present. It seems to me that Scripture clearly points to the holy nature of, nature. There is a deep connection to be found in the wild places, the ones created by God and left wholly untouched. Beyond the simple geography of the wilderness, there is also a theology gained by entering into these wild places. I want to visit the story of Elijah for just a moment. Elijah, in the book of Kings, is a Hebrew prophet who flees in fear of his life. He's driven out into the wilderness, and in a cave, he encounters God. There, Elijah went into a cave and stayed all night. Then the Lord spoke his word to him, "Elijah, why are you here?" He answered, "Lord God all-powerful, I have always served you as well as I could. But the people of Israel have broken their agreement with you, destroyed your altars, and killed your prophets with swords. I am the only prophet left, and now they're trying to kill me too." The Lord said to Elijah, "Go, stand in front of me on the mountain, and I will pass by you." Then a very strong wind blew until it caused the mountains to fall apart and large rocks to break in front of the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire, there was a quiet, gentle sound. When Elijah heard it, he covered his face with his coat and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Elijah, in this moment, is depressed, he's fearful, he's discouraged, he's hit a low moment, and it is in that moment God reveals himself, not in a grand dramatic way, although he orchestrates those to occur, but in a quiet, gentle sound. God reveals himself in a moment of peace. And I don't know about you, but that's when I have felt an undeniable presence of God too. In the panoramic vista at the top of a mountain lake, listening to the ocean tide come in rhythmically, walking through a dense rainforest under the canopy of a literal jungle, observing an intricate and ordered pattern in a spider's web, seeing a bird delight in the rain. These are quiet moments so full of God's presence, it seems the only appropriate response is odd silence. For it is here that we can observe the world as God created it. Here we can find cosmic patterns repeated. The veins of a leaf that look like the lifelines of a human palm is one such example. If we pay attention, really pay attention, the miraculous architecture of the natural world astonishes. And for me, it is evidence that we are all intricately and divinely connected to the world of creation. We are part of creation itself, not separate or above it. Tell me God doesn't abide in nature. And if we are indeed connected intrinsically with the natural world, then I wonder if there aren't lessons there for us to glean from. Lessons that are likely lost to us now because we have severed our connection to the land. We live in discord with nature. Somewhere, I'm guessing the Industrial Revolution, we went from being co-citizens with the land to conquerors of the land. We have no land ethic anymore. Ethics tells us how to be in community with each other. We have rules, codes of conduct, laws that govern how we ought to live with one another. Last week, Blair shared with us the rules of Shemitah in Leviticus that governed how ancient Jews were supposed to treat the land. Aldo Leopold, who is considered the father of the American conservation movement, suggests that a land ethic simply extends the notion of community to include soils, waters, plants, and animals, or what Leopold calls simply the land. Modern society has created a culture where I think by and large we are divorced from the land. It wasn't always like this. And in some places of the world, there is still an understanding and respect for the codependence we have with nature. I think of my father in Costa Rica. He's made friends with the butcher in town. When he buys meat, it's from the butcher's shop, and the butcher can guarantee him that the pound of meat he just bought was sourced from a single cow locally. The butcher probably knows the cattle rancher. Next, my dad will go to the various other stalls in the farmer's market, where he will buy vegetables and fruit directly from the farmers who grew those plants from seed and harvested them with their own hands. I remember a visit to Guatemala, where I have spent some time with a group of Quiche women, an indigenous Mayan tribe. They formed a co-op where they sell their colorful weavings to help support their community. They were having a meeting and had graciously allowed me to sit in. They met in a cornfield, in the middle of a cornfield. It's an image I will never forget. Colorful huipiles and cortes. Huipiles and cortes are the names of the traditional woven skirts and shirts that they wear that make up their traje, their customary clothing. Anyway, these colorful huipiles and cortes blended into a sea of corn stalks. A few women had notebooks, but that was as far as office technology went. There were no desks, no easy places to sit, no need for computers or phones. I was so moved by this. I still am. My father and my friends from Guatemala benefit from living in a community that still has a lifeblood tied to its agrarian roots. There is a communal respect for the land, a deep understanding of the codependence that sustains life all around. Again, it makes me revisit the short arc of Jesus' time amongst humans, where we clearly see a man who sought refuge in the outdoors. Of course, the Jesus of Scripture was a man living and communing in an agrarian society, so in many ways, this isn't surprising. Agrarian life necessitated a deep and abiding connection to the land. Farmers and fishermen in Galilee and surrounding areas knew the earth differently than we do. But our origin story as humans started in a garden, an oasis abundant in natural life, in flora and fauna. At our inception, we were designed to commune in nature, and yet we don't. In the name of progress and evolution, we've distanced ourselves from our natural surroundings. We spend the bulk of our time indoors. We miss so much. Nature has profound lessons and messages for us, but we miss it because we don't abide in the wild, natural spaces. We don't sit and stop long enough in nature to receive its gifts. What a tragedy. It's Easter, and I think one of the most salient lessons nature provides us is about resurrection. The natural world abides by a cyclical marking of time. Things die, and in the process, they nurture the ground they return to, their matter counting for something, their molecules becoming life again. Then sprouts grow, push through the earth and breathe new life. Death isn't the end. Nature might argue it's the beginning again. Death isn't the end. We are made new. Death isn't the end. It isn't the end in nature, and it wasn't the end in the story of Jesus. So perhaps it's not the end for us either. I don't think it's wild conjecture to say that Jesus could have easily skipped the whole death scene of his story. After all, his mother ascended into heaven without ever dying. Jesus could have, as one of his crossmates said, asked his father to simply remove him from the painful situation he was in. But he didn't. And I want to underscore this. I don't think that this was about glorifying pain or sacrifice. I don't think that the death of Jesus is about extolling virtues of pain. Henry Nouwen offers this in regards of the suffering of Jesus. Jesus does not glorify them or call them beautiful, good, or something to be desired. Jesus does not call for heroism or suicidal self-sacrifice. No, Jesus invites us to look at the reality of our existence and reveals this harsh reality as the way to new life. The core message of Jesus is that real joy and real peace can never be reached while bypassing suffering and death, but only by going right through them. Jesus could have avoided the final act of his human life, but he chose instead to see it through, to live the whole cycle of a human life. His death and burial are just as important as his birth. The public death of Jesus is a lesson for all of mankind. Richard Rohr offers wisdom on this better than I can. He says, Jesus' incarnate life, his passing over into death, and his resurrection into the ongoing Christ life is the archetypal model for the entire pattern of creation. He is the microcosm for the whole cosmos, or the map of the whole journey, in case you need or want one. Jesus' death follows the pattern set out since the beginning of time. Death is a transformative process. I think the resurrection of Jesus is an important tenet of Christian belief. Jesus' physical existence is critical. The incarnation of Jesus Christ is vital, making his human death a key part of the story. His bodily, physical resurrection affirms our connection to creation. Jesus' incarnate experience of death and his subsequent transformation, his resurrection into heaven, show us that we belong to something greater, that we are a part of creation. And I get it, believing the resurrection story of Christ might at first pass suggest that we have to suspend reality. It might be easier for us to believe in the spiritual dimensions of this story. Perhaps the authors of the Gospels spoke in metaphor, except that they didn't, not really. The Gospels are a narrative telling of the life of Jesus. They are an eyewitness account, firsthand observations about a man named Jesus. And yes, there are differences among them. That's to be expected when you have different lenses writing to different audiences. In all of them, though, the central messaging is pretty straightforward. Here's the story about a man named Jesus. For me, the resurrection being a story about a body's transformation and not just a spiritual transformation seems to be at the center of the story. And again, I'm going to lean on Richard Rohr. Personally, he says, I do believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus because it affirms what the whole physical and biological universe is also saying and grounds it in one personality. Resurrection must also be fully practical and material. If matter is inhabited by God, then matter is somehow eternal. And when the creed says we believe in the resurrection of the body, it means our bodies too, not just Jesus' body. As in him, so also in us. As in all of us, so also in him. And he says, so I'm quite conservative and orthodox by most standards on this important issue, although I realize it seems to be a very different kind of embodiment post-resurrection, as suggested by the gospel accounts. I think this makes the resurrection of Jesus not special because he is the Son of God, but special because it tethers us, mere mortals, to something sacred and divine. If matter is eternal, then so too are we. This is the promise of resurrection, the lesson beyond the grave. I cannot lie. This offers me incredible hope. In a year where I saw every matriarchal figure in my life die, both of my grandmothers, my godmother, my mom, in one calendar year, this promise of resurrection is something I cling to. I don't know what heaven is like. I don't think the scriptures talk about it much. I've been digging. There's not much there. It seems the emphasis is more about how to bring heaven to earth. I'm not so much concerned anymore about what the afterlife looks like as I am in the idea that there is a place we go to, that death is not permanent. The resurrection story helps me release my grip on fear that I will see my mother again. It helps me release my grip on fear that somehow she just ceased to exist. In a newsletter entitled Hope in the Time of Crisis, Franciscan sister and scientist Ilia Delio wrote, Christianity can help us realize that death and resurrection are part of the evolutionary path towards wholeness, letting go of isolated existence for the sake of deeper union. Something dies, but something new is born, which is why the chaos of our times is, in a strange way, a sign of hope. Something new is being born within. Out of chaos, a star is born. Breakdown can be breakthrough if we recognize a new pattern of life struggling to emerge. My mother has been transformed, as has anyone else who has experienced the liberation of death. She is made better, more whole than she ever was earthside. My world has been thrown off its axis, and it feels like chaos sometimes, moving through this life without her physical presence in it. But slowly I am coming to see gifts of grief, things I'm tucking away for now. My own life is emerging in new patterns in this post-pandemic existence. I am being made new from both physical and spiritual deaths. It's not hard to make death out to be the worst possible case scenario that it can be. Death is hard, devastatingly painful. I say that with conviction. In our flawed humanness, we cannot see past the finality of death. Mary Magdalene wept at the grave of Jesus, and his friends and disciples scattered in fear, losing all hope. But we know what happened next. We get to see the whole story. Easter invites us to, as Brian McLaren says, discover that God is already here, unrecognized. I spent 4 Thursdays in March processing my mother's death in a group grief workshop at an Episcopal church here in Charlotte. The co-leaders, they gave us these prompts to work through, and I have a binder of readings and exercises, just stuff. And I kept the workbook in my car, and Ethan, one of my sons, saw it and opened it. And I've been trying really hard not to shield the boys from my grief, to model that emotions are important and that it's okay to not always be okay. This is not what I meant, though, so I'm like, do I let him leaf through it? And I'm driving, so I have to make a lot of micro decisions at once. And I was racing, like, what did I write? I don't remember. So he's reading some of the prompts out loud to me and reading some of my responses. And it was an okay moment. And then he just closes the binder, and very calmly he says, this is what I think happens when you die. I think we come back, but we look different, so no one recognizes you. We have the same personality and skills we had before, but we're better at them. And God gives us new skills too. Abuela, which is the Spanish word for grandmother, so my mom. Abuela is here with us. We just can't see her, Mom. And he delivered this so flawlessly, like no sweat. And here's what struck me in that moment. First, I think this is the first time I've ever heard one of my sons articulate a worldview that is uniquely born of their own ponderings. We have like books about religious difference, and I definitely think he's heard of the Hindu concept of reincarnation, but so much of what he said was so original to his own sort of imagination. And secondly, the second thing that struck me is this is the very thing Rohr and other theologians have written about regarding the nature of death. My son, my 9-year-old son, can better accept that truth than I can. My 9-year-old son understands the message of Easter or the joy of resurrection better than I do. The world is still a mess. The ache of missing my mother and all of the other matriarchs in my family has not diminished. Easter doesn't expel pain and suffering, but Easter is a proclamation that joy is part of death because death is not the end. Today my prayer is one of thanksgiving. It is one of deep gratitude for the creator of this world, for the reminders of God's infinite creativity, for the softness of the earth beneath my feet, for the bird song that carries joy, for the creek in my backyard that rises and falls but never stops, for the movement of wind that demonstrates God's visibility and invisibility at once, for the quiet, gentle sound Elijah heard at the face of a mountain. I imagine it was the same gentle, quiet sound that deafened the empty cave that couldn't contain Jesus' body. Today, my prayer is one of gratitude for Easter's promise that death is not the end of the story for any of us. May we go out in peace today and drink in the joy of the good news of this day, Watershed. For the darkest of nights yielded the lightest, holiest of hopes. Happy Easter.
I want to invite you to stand as we close this morning. We're going to sing 2 songs, and the first one you might not know, but there's this idea of resurrection energy that gets manifested maybe in the seasons, and so we're going to sing a song, and it's got that spring, new life energy in it, and so however you want to engage with us this morning, I want to invite you into that in the next few moments.
You buried the night and came with the morning. You're the King of heaven. The praise is yours. The longer the quiet, the louder the chorus song. We will sing a new song, 'cause death is dead and gone with the winner. We will sing a new song, let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime.
You're the living water, God, we thirst for you. The dry and the barren, the flower and bloom. You're the sun that's shining, you restore my soul. The deeper you call us, the deeper we'll go.
Tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, and like a garden I will grow. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, and like a garden I will grow. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, and like a garden I will grow. I will grow. I will like springtime, oh, it's like springtime, oh, like springtime, oh, it's like springtime, oh. Blessed are the ones who do not bury all the broken pieces of their heart. Blessed are the tears of all the weary, pouring like a sky of falling stars. Blessed are the wounded ones in mourning, brave enough to show the Lord their scars. Y'all sound good, yes. Blessed are the hurts that are not heeded, go unnoticed, serving with unguarded gratitude. Blessed are the ones who fight for justice, longing for the coming day of peace. Blessed is the soul that thirsts for righteousness, welcoming the last, the lost, the least. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Our hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Blessed are the ones who suffer violence and still have strength to love their enemies. Blessed is the faith of those who persevere. Though they fall, they never know defeat. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Our hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Our hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Our hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Let's sing that together. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Our hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him. Just voices. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Our hope is in the Lord. Keep your eyes on Him.
As we leave today, our prayer is that your hope is renewed, that this Easter resurrection instills in you a love that is bigger than you, a love that is divine, both for yourself, the ability to love yourself with the divine love, and that it transforms you so that you can love others. It's easy to stand in here and sing together once a year, to remember this resurrection life, this resurrection light in us, and to walk out these doors and experience all the pain, the heartache, the grief, the death, and forget. So thank you for being a part of this moment, and I hope that this moment this morning, this Easter Sunday 2022, will be something that you can come back to, a space that you can remember as you go throughout this year. Thank you so much for being here, Watershed. We are so grateful that you're showing up, that you're being a part of this space, and we hope you'll join us next week as we continue in this series. Thank you so much. Have a great Easter Sunday. See you next time.